What is going on, Angels? The Champ Strider here, and today we get to dive into the new patch 2.9 titled Reclamation, and we've been starving for some Chivalry 2 content, and it seems like we're in the home stretch here as the update will drop in August. I'll be filling you guys in on all the new content and the important changes that'll be coming to Chivalry 2 and how it'll impact your gameplay experience. And real quick, you're going to notice it's not actually me playing in the background today. Sun God was nice enough to gather some footage of the new map for me since I was on vacation. And if you're not familiar with him, he's one of the best players in the game, and he helps organize the Medieval Fighting League, which is a bi-weekly 30 versus 30 team objective match that assembles the best players in the game to sweat it out. I'm going to link up the Tournament Grounds Discord if you're interested in getting in lobbies with players like Sun God or myself. So let's start with the new map, the Reclamation of MONTCRUX. Agatha, they're super pissed off after what happened in Bridgetown, and they're going to bring the fight back into Tenosia, and I had a lot of grievances with Bridgetown. I thought the map, it just seemed like half-ass trash, but looking at the gameplay of MONTCRUX, it looks really nice. They could have just tossed some sand on the ground and called it a day, but the map, it's filled with small vegetation and details that just keep it looking really, really visually nice, and the dust clouds and stuff that are kicked up as players move, it's a step back towards Chivalry maps being just a thing of beauty and super immersive. I'm really impressed by the overall look of the map. It reminds me just so much of one of my favorite night movies, Kingdom of Heaven. I think it has the potential to be a really nice addition to the game. My only initial concerns is there seems to be a lot of uphill fighting, which for some reason, when players are on different levels, it breaks Chivalry's combat, which can be really frustrating. And I see some problems like with Thaic Stronghold, where your knight has trouble maneuvering uphill past like small rocks on the ground, which it's beyond frustrating. Any person could step over a small pebble, but in Chivalry, sometimes you can't. But the map, just from my initial viewing, it looks really good, and I think it's going to be a nice addition to the game. Now, we also have a new weapon, the abomination that is the siege crossbow. This weapon has been completed for almost 2 years, and finally the developers have pulled the trigger and released it. I think you guys can probably predict how I'll react to this addition to the game, but yeah, to me, this is just a nothing burger. I'll never shoot or use the weapon. My biggest concern was that it would be like a movable ballista one-shotting people. And one-shot mechanics are just never a good thing in games. But I've heard feedback that this is not the case, and the siege crossbow will focus on destroying things like ballistas and catapults, so I don't think it'll actually get that much play. Now, we will be getting one of the promised new free-for-all maps, but I wouldn't really call it a new map. It pains me to say this, but we're getting Desert as a free-for-all map, so it's basically a reskin of Desert TDM, which is actually a reskin of the first stage of Breach of Baldwin, and Desert TDM is just an abomination of a map. If they make it daytime, maybe it'll be fine, but nighttime Desert Free-For-All will just completely empty servers, I can guarantee that. Now, we will also be getting our customary campaign pass. No details here yet, but I would expect 2 to 3 armor variants and a few epic weapon skins, along with a new limited time mode, the Last Peasant Standing. This will be a variation of Last Team Standing, but as the name says, you're going to spawn as a peasant, and you have to use whatever weapon you can find on the map, whether it be a dagger or a cucumber. The mode actually sounds kind of fun and interesting. Now let's dive into the real meat and potatoes of these updates, the combat changes, and let me start on aim assist. A lot of people got really salty when I posted the clips of what we like to call arrow magnetism, where arrows will curve and lock onto enemies that the shooter clearly missed and just hit them anyway. Think the Patriot arrow from Robin Hood Men at Tights. I had some people go full nerd rage in the comment section about it, but looks like the devs agreed, stating that aim assist was stronger than intended and that they will be toning it down and removing the magnetism completely. Now, controversial decision here, but stabs are taking a bit of a nerf collectively. For the last 2 years, you could stab right through the back of your teammates. Well, not overly realistic. This was nice since so many teammates in TO are just completely brain dead and run directly in front of you, hit stopping your attack. And you guys all know what I'm talking about. You're in an intense fight, moronic teammate runs from out of your vision directly in the way as your killing blow is about to land, stopping your strike. And then your enemy's attack decapitates both of you. This is why I really love being able to stab through my teammates, because I can control my play, but I can't control what the shitters do. Now, for consistency's sake and realism's sake, this makes sense. Also, in the comp scene, players would abuse this so that they could hide their attacks behind a teammate, and the enemy cannot see it coming. Until I get to run my longsword with the change, I'm unsure of how it will actually affect the game, but I see this being really frustrating in public lobby choke points. We'll see, I guess. Now on combat changes, we have a big win here. Torn Banner nubified the parry boxes in the last patch, making them so big that players could block strikes that were actually hitting them in the back. They've decreased the parry box by half of the increase. What that actually means in normal speak is it's going to be exactly in the middle of where it was before the changes and where it is now. I think this is a very acceptable compromise, and it'll actually improve the game's combat. Now, some of the biggest changes in this patch are not to gameplay, but the matchmaking, and we have some huge wins here. First of all, 64-player team objective will now be exactly that, team objective, as team deathmatch is completely removed from the mode. Huge win for the community here, and I'm going to take a bit of credit here for championing this cause with the developers, and nothing was more lobby crushing than getting to like a desert TDM, and that'll no longer be an issue, so major respect. Now, sticking to our main page, the Mounted Warfare queue will be completely removed, and it's going to be replaced with a 40-player mixed modes, which will have both horses and team deathmatch. Mounted Warfare, it saw very little play, and there's a core audience who's been begging for more 40-player action, so I think this is a win. Horses are still there, and we get a return to the more intimate, smaller-scale team objective for the players who really love this mode. I've called Torn Banner out many times for being a bit too stubborn to admit defeat on Mounted Warfare, so respect to them on finally deciding it's time to move on. So I feel like that sums up all the big ticket changes that are coming in patch 2.9. The devs, of course, they put out some pretty long patch notes filled with bug fixes. I'll link them if anyone really wants to dive deep into the finer changes of the patch. Let me know down below, what are you most excited for in patch 2.9? Champ out.